Now, as we transition to the second half of CFTH Presents, I'd like to pause first to thank Citizens Catering for generously providing delicious food for tonight. Bread of Life for hosting us this evening. The space has been perfect, so thank you very much. DNA Studios for recording tonight's event. And then also share what the rest of this evening will look like. So we're going to move into a panel conversation, and then take a few minutes to hear from our CEO, Kelly. And then we'll finally close with some reflections from one of this evening's speakers, Frederick Witherspoon. And so with that, it is my pleasure to introduce the members of tonight's chat. That will be moderated by Chris Donaldson, which is our Senior Outreach Associate at CFTH, who works directly with clients navigating recovery and housing. They have worked in Houston's Homeless Services for 7 years and hold a master's in community and regional planning from the University of Texas at Austin. Outside work, Chris enjoys rock climbing, photography, and poetry. Joining Chris are Frederick Witherspoon, Counselor of Outpatient Services at the Council on Recovery. Born in White Castle, Louisiana, Frederick overcame nearly 30 years of homelessness and substance use, including a 10-year prison sentence. After rehabilitation through the Council on Recovery, he earned an Associate's in Applied Science, a Bachelor's in Psychology, and became a licensed chemical dependency counselor in 2017. He now counsels adolescents and adults at the Harris County Psychiatric Hospital and the Dunn Center while pursuing a master's in professional counseling. His personal journey fuels his empathy and dedication to supporting others facing addiction and mental health challenges. Amber Hossinger, bless her, for coming back for a second time. And the first time was during a direct show when our power went out at the United Way and we finished the conversations with water bottles on top of cell phone mics. So the fact that she's here again with us this evening is wonderful. She is the program director at the Harris Center for Mental Health and IDD, joins us with over 15 years of behavioral health experience, primarily serving underprivileged individuals in crisis. Since joining leadership in 2014, she has developed programs addressing the needs of unhoused individuals and those with frequent law enforcement encounters. She recently partnered with CFTH to create a community-based support team, helping people maintain housing. Amber is a certified laughter yoga instructor and trainer in applied suicide intervention skills training. And last but not least, Judy Chavez, interim CEO of the Council on Recovery, has served the Council on Recovery for 8 years, most recently as Chief Development and Communication Officer, before becoming interim president and CEO in March of 2025. She began her nonprofit career with Houston Firefighters Burn Children's Fund and later worked at the Shriners Hospital for Children. Chavez holds a humanities degree from the University of Texas at Austin and an MBA in healthcare administration from the University of Texas at Tyler. She's passionate about advancing recovery services and community impact. Please join me in welcoming them all to the stage. Thank you, Katie.
Hey guys, I'm Chris. I'll be moderating the panel tonight. I'm really excited to be doing it. I also get to answer the first question, so let's get into it. To kick it off, we're going to be asking kind of a personal question from all of us, and it's about what experience we had that shifted our understanding of homelessness and recovery. I've been thinking about this question, and it seems so obvious to me because my first day in homeless services, I worked for Search originally, and on my first day I went on a ride-along to see Outreach. I was originally a navigator, and so the very first encampment I went to on my very first day, we heard some commotion and went to find out what it was, and somebody had been found dead in their tent. I had been volunteering in home services for a while, and I knew that the life expectancy for somebody on the streets is lower than somebody who is housed. And I had never really considered what impacts that, and this man had died due to liver failure because of alcohol use disorder. And it really, for me, solidified at the beginning of my career the link between recovery and homelessness. All right, what do you think?
There were a couple as I was thinking about this question that came to mind for me, but the one that stands out is I was living and working down in Galveston County, and there was a gentleman that frequently stood on this corner of this intersection. And one evening I stopped to give him some things, and he looked me straight in the eye with the most earnest smile and said, "Hi, my name is Victor. What's yours?" And it just stopped me cold in my tracks, because I was stopping with good intention, well intention, but immediately by saying his name and asking mine, it was such a human connection, just so very direct. And I'm thinking about this. Here's Victor. His mom, held him in her arms and said, "This is going to be my son, Victor." And so that always stayed with me. And I think that one of the challenges, as we're talking about homelessness and substance use disorder, is it's so easy to dehumanize folks and disconnect from their totality of wholeness and goodness as people.
My name is Frederick. So homelessness real serious with me because I've only been living in an apartment for about 8 years now. The rest of my life I was home. So you got to understand that too. One of the biggest barriers I face trying to get housing, because housing, I know now since 2017 that yes, housing was the key to everything going up. I couldn't find housing because I had a criminal record, and I had a psychiatric diagnosis of schizoaffective disorder and was taking up to 1,000 milligrams of Seroquel a day. So when I got housing, it was a beautiful thing to have a place to lay down instead of a cardboard box.
I'm going to get closer to Fred. My name is Amber Hansinger, and I would say my story is a little different. I worked in the field working with individuals for many years, and in 2017 transitioned into a director role at the Harris Center, and it was at that point when I was in a position where I could design programs and really think about the strategies and what was necessary to shape some of the services that were needed and some of the supports that are needed for individuals living on the streets. And I would say it was at that point when I realized how much intersection there was, particularly between housing stability and the recovery process. And in developing my teams, I really wanted to make sure that not only was I developing appropriate supports within my own realm, but also partnering with some of the other agencies to make sure that we were utilizing each other's strengths.
Thank you so much. This one's a two-parter, so if you need a reminder of one of the parts, just let me know. But I'm going to go ahead and read the whole thing for y'all because they're pretty related. what are some common misconceptions you've heard about the intersection of substance use and homelessness? And also, consequently, how have you seen that stigma or misconceptions impact someone's willingness or ability to seek help? Let's start with Amber this time.
Fred and I are going to be real close after tonight. Okay, so repeat the first part.
What are some of
The misconceptions.
common misconceptions that you've heard about the intersection of recovery and homelessness?
Okay. I would say some of the most common intersections would definitely be, some of the thoughts that, individuals are living on the streets because they don't want help or because they're just addicts or just criminals. Very stigmatizing, very, just really ugly comments and thoughts that, very, I guess, dehumanizing, if you will. And so you stop and think if that's how people are thinking about you, if that's how systems are talking about you, then why on earth would you want to go and receive help? And so I would say that those are probably some of the most common misconceptions that I've heard.
Everybody on drugs is homeless. Yeah. They don't want no help. They're going to choose the drugs over housing. There's no hope in trying to help them. That's the biggest misconception. When you convince yourself that this person is not worth helping, and you hold that implicit bias in the profession where you're supposed to help. I faced that many times. I think I relapsed about 17 times in 30 years. But the biggest thing that I ran into was professionals like ourselves, which made me become a professional, to stop it a little bit. Have a counselor sit in front of me and tell me, you're too far gone, there's no way we can help you.
Yeah, I would agree that the misconceptions and stigma around both homelessness and substance use disorders as moral failings and weakness, rather than systemic issues, chronic disease, and this really reductive, oversimplified approach to what causes and perpetuates these issues is what just comes up over and over again. And I think Fred said it perfectly. No one wants to seek help when that's what you're met with. It is tremendously vulnerable to ask for help. And so, when our systems are not set up to help people and meet them in that moment, it's hard to surmount that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I definitely see the stigma when I talk to my clients, like they don't want to admit it sometimes. And also what you mentioned about how there are so many other things that can interact with these issues to make them worse. Like, I think a lot of people think that if you're homeless and you're on drugs, you're homeless because you did drugs, where it's not so straightforward. So thank y'all for your input. On a more positive note, I want to ask y'all what recovery looks like and how important is housing in the recovery process. We've already started to touch on it, but if we could really highlight that point, that'd be great.
So recovery is a process. It's multidimensional, and it looks like healing, improvement, living life on life's terms, and having good physical well-being, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, mental well-being. And housing is a huge part of that. I think about the work of our coaches. Coach Mike is sitting out here in the audience today, and we talk about building recovery capital because we want to have supports, and people need supports to be successful and move through life. And that housing is an absolutely foundational element of that.
Well, y'all wanna know what recovery looks like? It started, well, I'm gonna tell the story later, I'm gonna tell y'all later. But recovery looks like me. There's still parts of me that have remnants of the 30 years of homelessness, especially if I take the shoes off. And y'all see what the toes look like. Because keeping those shoes on for weeks at a time, and if you take them off, they'll get stolen. But it develop a fungus, and it's gonna take some work to get that done. This recovery, my teeth was grinded down to the gum. And it had to get fixed when I got housing and was stable enough to keep my hygiene up and deal with these people on a regular basis. And to be more presentable, because people are more acceptable to you when you're presentable. That's one of the things that this is what homelessness looks like right here, you know. Overcoming, whether to have the people in your corner, to find those people was tremendously hard. I mean, it took 30 years to find one organization, one lady, and one caseworker to say I could make a difference. And in the spring, after the spring semesters, I have my master's in LPC.
Congratulations. So to piggyback, I think it's important to note that recovery is not a fixed destination. It really is a process, and it's a journey. I think a lot of people have this perception of what recovery or what, this perfect world would look like for them, and I think it's important for the individual to also be able to reflect and say, you know what, this is what I want my recovery to be and how I want my recovery to look, and for those providing that support to help them navigate toward the life that they're wanting ultimately.
Thank you so much. I think y'all got both parts of that pretty thoroughly. I really appreciate it. And man, that was awesome. Because you really are, for a lot of people, what recovery looks like is so abstract, and to have somebody here that represents recovery is really incredible. Thank you. I want to ask Judy and Amber some specific insights from y'all too. Recently, President Trump signed an executive order positioning homelessness, particularly individuals experiencing serious mental illness or addiction, as a public safety and criminal issue. The order directs jurisdictions to expand forced civil commitment, insist housing assistance be conditional on treatment compliance, and prioritize funding for cities that enforce anti-vagrancy laws such as camping bans and prohibition of drug use. So, Judy and Amber, as experts in this field, could you tell us some of the takeaways you'd like for people to know or understand from this executive order? And further, to be able to carry out this executive order, what would providers need from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration? Okay. So if you could sort of, even if you're just explaining the executive order kind of in your own words, like in how it would impact your organization and the kind of federal support you might need. Does that sound more concise? Yeah. Okay.
I'll say I don't know if I'm going to go the exact direction you're leading me, but I'm going to go a direction.
Take it.
So what I would say is that this order and others like it perpetuate the stigma and criminalization of systemic issues that keep people trapped in their disease, that keep people trapped in homelessness. We will never we'll never jail our way out of this problem. We will not even treat our way out of this problem. We have to prevent our way out of this problem and be working upstream to provide individuals, families, and communities the support to lead healthy, meaningful, productive lives. And so when we look at stigma, it shows up at the individual and family level, it shows up at the policy level, it shows up at the system level. And those are things that keep people trapped. And we also cannot mandate people into wellness. So it is not going to be effective. The evidence does not support that as a meaningful way of resolving these complicated issues. We know that there is a cost to homelessness. We know that there is a cost to substance use disorders. We are going to spend on these issues, whether we're doing it on the back end, cleaning up the wreckage, or on the front end, supporting people in meaningful ways. So I would strongly advocate for doing it on the front end.
So I am going to try very hard to take a positive spin on this order. So bear with me. So I did a lot of digging. When I was told this was going to be a question asked, I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? So I really wanted to find if there was some positivity, right? If there was something that we could take from this and actually turn into something meaningful and useful. And so some of what I found, I was able to find a little bit of hope in. I think that as program developers and community members, I think we could try and build really positive programs out of some of the funding that is supposed to come funneling down, I will say. I know that they are looking to expand behavioral health supports through HHS, and so I'm really hoping that we can see some funds come in to help us build out the right services, particularly for individuals who are unhoused. One of the programs that I work very closely with the Coalition for the Homeless with actually provides in-home supports to people who are transitioning into housing. And so what I would like to see is some expansion on programs like that, and even adding on-site behavioral health and substance use providers, particularly in apartment complexes or places where we're actually housing individuals, so that we're able to help them not only be housed, but then help them maintain housing. I'm also really hoping to see, again, positive, right? I have read some of the intent really is to try and strengthen some of the collaborations right now that we already have, right? Right now we're collaborating a lot with HUD, we collaborate with HHS, the DOJ, which is Department of Justice, and even pulling in Department of Transportation. It would be amazing if we can strengthen those relationships, and part of the order is promoting that we do that. So that means in the local levels and state levels, we really need to make sure that when we're developing these programs that we really are tying in our partners and making sure that everybody comes to the table so that we can provide more comprehensive supports. One last takeaway, step-down units. I don't know if you guys are familiar with step-down programs, but basically these are programs that help individuals transition from a more institutionalized setting to more independent living environments. So basically people who are potentially going through these civil commitments or people who are being hospitalized, having them have a step down, transition back into the community so that they're receiving appropriate supports as they're being, they're going through that journey and trying to get back out into the community independently. You also asked about things we need from SAMHSA. Positive. So money, we always need funding, right? We always need funding to make these things happen. I think we also need data tools. We need to be able to have appropriate data tools to be able to look at metrics, to be able to make sure that our outcomes are positive and that our money is going to the right places, right? We need oversight and making sure that we're making, these programs are ethical, that they're taking into consideration the individual's rights, because let's face it, they have rights. And they, as Judy said, we can't force them into wellness, right? You can't mandate that. And so we want to make sure that the programs that we have, we are actually implementing those appropriately and ethically. What else do we need, guys? We need training. We can keep going. We need training. We need specialized trainings. Do you guys want to expand? I can go on forever.
I first of all appreciate your positive approach and would say that I think that when we're in challenging times like this, you know, necessity is the mother of invention, and we have an opportunity as a sector to reinvent the work that we're doing and to reimagine what it is that we need to do to be effective. Because whether we like the box that we are in or not, it's the box we're in, and we've got to respond in that reality. To me, there's a recovery lesson here, right? It's life on life's terms. We can't just be angry that it is the way that it is. We have to figure out how to accept it, how to navigate it, and how to make the best of it. And so I think we have an opportunity as treatment providers, supportive housing folks, caseworkers, therapists, you name it, to reinvent and reimagine how do we show up to make the most of this and do things differently. And the bottom line is, you know, what do we need from SAMHSA? It's money. You need to invest in this. Money.
Yes, we can add more affordable housing to the list. Yeah. I love hearing both of y'all talk. I mean, like, so hopefully about prevention, about collaboration, about what we can all do together and what we need and where we can go from this. The final question is actually very much related to where we can go from this. It's about what maybe the people who feel like they're on the outskirts of this issue can do. It's, in your opinion, and this one's for everybody, how can everyday people who aren't service providers be part of the solution? I feel like we're starting to touch on it, but yeah, feel free to really like dig into what the people here or even the people in our lives, what we can ask from them to bring us forward.
Something that has been coming up for me a lot recently is this idea of connection and community. Back in the day, I worked at the 211 helpline, and something that emerged over and over again is, you know, hearing thousands of calls from people struggling with everyday basic needs, is that all of those folks have in common is a lack of community support. And so, like, as we're trying to figure out how do we change this really overwhelming system, how do we solve this huge complicated problem, like we can't boil the ocean in a day, but you know what, I can check on my neighbor. I noticed the trash can didn't get taken in, are they okay? I'm gonna help this other mom in the class with my kid because I noticed that, you know, she's having a hard time. I'm gonna watch her kid for an hour, whatever it is. Being in community and finding small ways to show up for the people in your immediate vicinity makes a difference. And if we can be connected and create belonging and purpose and care and compassion and kindness at even that tiny little micro level, that adds up and makes a difference for people.
Yeah, from my experience, I can tell you now that I've lived through a period of changes. Younger years, it was more togetherness. Then, in the era of the 90s, people started drifting apart. And then now we're at the time where we won't even have a conversation face to face anymore. I'm just want to text you. Whether you know it or not, those type of things right there breed on you so much that even when you're in your profession, that lack of human compassion, human touch, human sympathy, human empathy, genuine empathy. Because if you focus at that phone so much and it becomes a pattern, you may not know it, but unconsciously you're going to exhibit that behavior with the person across from you. Your patient's gonna be short-lived. You're not gonna talk to them. What we need, what we really need, is people to just be real with each other, show love and compassion like we used to do back in the day. Because that's where the first step gonna start. Because I'm gonna tell you, I done ran across some counselors and some people in this profession that made me not want to ask for help. I stayed out there right behind this church in the Pierce elevator, in that alley back there, and they came in vain one day. Hey, come on, man, y'all, we can help y'all. Man, I ain't going to mess with y'all, man. Y'all ain't real. You know? And everybody on that sidewalk did not move, because that's how we felt. Even if they did was going to give us a problem, we turned it down. Because we knew we were stung like that several other times before. So what we need to move forward and to help each other, everybody, even working with your peers, you got to exhibit the same type of love that you'll do to the client, with the people you work with too. And then things will start moving for real.
That's okay, go ahead. So for me, I think knowledge is power. According to the National Institute of Health, 91% of individuals on these streets are faced with trauma while they're on the streets. 99% of unhoused people have experienced some sort of childhood trauma. Okay, so I think for me, how we can help is understanding that everybody has a journey, and not everybody's journey has been so kind to them. These are human beings, these are people, these are individuals that, as Fred said, they need love, they need support. Connection is key. That is really one of the top pieces to recovery is just connection to others and that positivity, having encouragement, but also being knowledgeable of the resources in the area so that when you do talk to people, you have something to offer also. Know where they can get some assistance. If they need food, know where you can point them in a direction so that they can, get some food for the night. If you know of some shelters, give them the information. They may already have it, but they may not. And so making sure that you're treating people with compassion, kindness, and hopefully have some information to be able to share that can help them out.
That's great. Thank you so much. And just as far as being part of the solution, thank you to everybody here, whether you're a service provider or you're not a service provider. Like they said, education is power, and y'all are doing your part to be part of the solution. If I could just get another round of applause for the panelists. Thank you so much, guys. I really enjoyed this. Now I think we're going to have a couple words from Kelly, the CEO of CFTH. If you want to say it here, Frederick.
Yes. Hi, everyone. How are you tonight? Doing good? Yes. I only going to say three things, which I know is really hard to believe if you know me at all. The first, I want just to recognize the truth-telling that people took up here, finding hope sometimes, or happiness, or something positive in what feels like a constant barrage of negativity, is the core of actually moving things forward. Because if you stick in the idea that you can't fix it, can't change it, can't do anything about it, then you can't fix it, you can't change it, you can't do anything about it. So the best part about it is this is a room full of people who are connected to reason, not rhetoric, and we will move forward with reason and know our reasons for the work we do, and we will achieve whatever we need to for the people we serve. And then lastly, just to address stigma really quick, I want you to turn, and this is going to be super uncomfortable, but to the person either to your right or your left, and just 2 seconds look at them. You did a very good job. I know it was uncomfortable. But the point of it, besides to make you uncomfortable, all have our stories, we all have the things that we deal with every day, and if we can look at each other for those 2 seconds and remember that, we will move much further along and be able to care for each other and care for ourselves, because that's how we connect. And then my last thing is on the money side, yes, we cannot do more with less, we can only do more with more, and we will continue to work to get more, because these two systems in particular, substance use and mental health, have been underfunded, unfunded, totally decapitated in being able to do the work they need to do, and then are blamed for all the work that's not done. And so we will continue to push to have more to do more, because we cannot do more with less. So thank you all for coming tonight. I'm super excited to hear your story. I'm going to leave the lovely Frederick up here, and so much appreciation for coming out. Yeah.
Mic check 1, 2. Yeah, that's my DJ. That's my DJ voice. If y'all don't know, my DJ name is Spoonie G, and I do DJ too. All right. So I had 2 speeches prepared. I don't know if I should do the closing or the beginning. Y'all want both of them? Okay, well, good. So my name is Frederick. I'm a licensed chemical dependent counselor. I'm also a graduate student pursuing my master's in professional counseling. But before I ever sat in the classroom or held a license, I spent decades surviving on the streets, addicted, incarcerated, and invisible. I want to share my story with you, but not because it's unique, but because it is far too common, and because someone out there needs to know that change is possible, even when it feels like the world has given up on you. I first smoked crack in 1987. I was young, curious, and hurting in ways I didn't understand. That one hit turned into a habit, and that habit turned into a lifestyle. I lost jobs, relationships, and eventually my sense of self. I remember one night in the early 90s, I was sleeping behind a dumpster in Houston. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. My shoes were stolen the week before, and I was walking on the pavement barefooted, and it was hot. I wasn't just homeless. I was hopeless. I lived in the shadows of crack cocaine addiction. I wasn't just without shelter. I was without safety, without dignity, and without a sense of being a human being. I was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, which meant I was battling hallucination, paranoia, and depression while trying to survive on the streets. I was addicted to crack cocaine from 1987 to 2002. That's 15 years of pain and survival. In 2002, I was sentenced to 10 years with the Department of Corrections. At first, I thought prison was going to break me, but strangely, it gave me something I hadn't had in years, which was structure. I started reading, I started reflecting, and I started believing that just maybe a little bit, I could be more than my addiction. But when I got out, I had nowhere to go, no home, no job, no support. I returned to the streets, and the cycle straightening began again. Even after serving my time, I remained homeless until 2017. That's 30 years of living in the margins, being unseen, unheard, and often unloved. But I am here. I'm living proof that change is possible. Today, I am pursuing my master's in professional counseling. I work with people who were where I once was. And I'm here to tell you recovery is possible. Change is possible. And nobody is too far gone. Let me share 2 moments of my life on the streets that echoes with me all from time to time. Once in 1995, I was sleeping behind a strip mall in Houston, curled up next to a dumpster, and a man walked by, saw me, and threw an empty bottle against my head, not to humiliate me, and not to help me, but just to humiliate me. And I remember how the hit and what he said. And the message was, you don't matter. That night I cried on that cardboard bed, wondering if I would ever be seen as a person again. In 2000, I was walking through downtown. I was high, I was disoriented, and I collapsed on the streets. People were stepping over me like I was trash. One woman even said, he's drunk. I wasn't drunk though. I was having a psychotic episode. I woke up hours later in Bental Hospital with no memory of how I got there. That moment taught me how invisible homelessness can make you feel. How easy it is to be erased. But I wasn't erased, I was wounded, yes. I was lost, yes. But somewhere deep inside of me, I still had a spark. And that spark came by people who believed in me, like the counselors at the Council of Recovery who gave me the first referral to treatment after prison. That referral turned into me meeting a woman at the Department of Assisted Rehabilitative Services, Ms. Tanya Waddell, who has been funding my education since 2014. I had a free ride with my education. They saw past my addiction. They saw past the diagnosis. They saw past the criminal record. They said that I was worth saving. So, to anyone struggling or working with someone, don't give up. That road is long, but it goes somewhere. And sometimes the people who walk through the darkest valleys become the strongest guides. So, that was the first speech for the open, right? And so I'm going to share this little closing one because it's going to tie in everything that we were talking about. I think I came very prepared. That's education for 10 straight years since 2014. That level of education coming from associate to my psychology degree in my undergrad, straight into graduate school, because I tried to quit a couple of times, but Ms. Waddell was telling me, boy, you gotta you can't stop now, keep going. Now they're trying to talk me into going past the master to get the doctorate. And I'm saying, I don't know if I got that much juice left. I'm 60 years old. But here was the closing speech, and I hope that this can resonate with y'all to tie in the theme of what we're talking about here today. So for 30 years I battled crack cocaine, lived on these streets in Houston, diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, and I was incarcerated. That's not a resume though. It's a roadmap of pain, survival, and ultimately transformation. Substance use isn't just about the drug. It's about the wound, the trauma, and the silence. I didn't wake up one day and chose to be a crackhead. I was trying to numb what I didn't have the words to name. And I was once labeled addicted, crazy criminal. The world stopped seeing me as a person. And that's what stigma does. That's what stigma does. It strips away at humanity and replaces it with judgment. I remember sleeping behind the dumpster garages for food, being treated like I was less than, not just by strangers, by systems that was designed to help me. I was denied housing because of my record. I was denied care because of my diagnosis. And denied dignity because of my addiction. And every time somebody looked at me, they looked through me, and it reinforced that I didn't matter. Recovery just didn't start with rehab either. It started with somebody seeing me, listening, believing that I was more than my worst day. That's what we need. Not just services, but compassion. Not just treatment, but trust. Today, I'm a licensed chemical dependent counselor working at HCPC and the Dunn Center. I'm pursuing my master's in professional counselor, and I work with people who are still in the trenches, still battling that stigma. That little part, that part always got me every time I tried to put this together because it made me think about it. But I tell these people, man, I've been there. They're not alone. They're not a broken piece of whatever they heard the people tell them out there. And that I'm here to help them fix it. But I'm not going to do all the work for you. But I'm going to be right there to guide you all the way through. This event was called More Than a Fix because I know the truth. There's no single solution, no magic pill, no one-size-fits-all. Healing takes time, a community, and a willingness to confront the uncomfortable implicit bias some people in this profession hold, which is he or she is too far gone. If you hold this belief, you are part of a system that will undermine everything we are trying to accomplish here right here tonight. And I'm here to tell you, from my experience, my road to recovery includes countless times of where people turned on me in this profession and said, there's nothing I can do to help you. You will be sick for the rest of your life. So, I ask when you leave here tonight, don't just remember those statistics they were talking about up here. Remember the stories. Remember that behind every tent, every overdose, every arrest is a person with a name, a history, and a future worth fighting for. Let's dismantle this stigma. Let's humanize the struggle. And let's make sure that no one is ever treated like I was, invisible. Because we are more than a fixture. We are more than our past. And we are worthy of recovery, of housing, and of hope. Thank you. Any questions?
All right, well, before you all leave, we do have our lovely boards we want you to hang your beads on. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you walk out of here interested in staying focused on the reasons we do the work, the reasons we show up for other people, and just much love and appreciation for all of you. Can you give a round of applause to the lovely CFTH team that put all this together?